You're listening to Morning Motivation with Matthew. Morning Motivation is a podcast that helps you focus on setting your week in motion. Each episode, we'll dive into topics focused on being and remaining motivated. Regardless of what stage you are in life, we need men who are now more committed than ever and dedicated to not giving up, not just for those around you, but for yourself. We want you to live a life fulfilled and not allowing 10 or 15 years to go by wishing you've achieved that goal you had. Look, I'm not saying I get it right all the time, but what I can tell you is that I'm fighting to keep it together. I decided to start this journey into podcasting based on life lessons and gleaning from mentors who've helped me every step of the way. Remaining motivated is more than just saying you're motivated. It's a choice followed by an action. A choice to get out of bed every morning, not knowing what the day will hold. A choice to continue holding down the family and supporting everyone else mentally, emotionally, financially, and physically. Remaining motivated is knowing that regardless of your current situation, you are dedicated to achieving success and inspired by those around you who are making it happen. I'll be sharing my own stories and life experiences. Along the way, I'll have guests who can share insight and resources geared to helping us remain motivated together. I'm sure not all will agree, and I'm sure I'm bound to have some hiccups along the way. What I can promise is we will grow together while remaining motivated, all while keeping it together. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in to Motivation with Matthew Gamble. Let me start off by just saying I know it has been quite some time since we have had an opportunity to connect, to fellowship together, to really talk about what's happening, and for me to really provide some motivation for you all. Today's episode is going to be titled "This Thing Called Life," and the reason that I've decided to call this particular episode that is simply because life has a way of attempting, I'm going to say attempting, to throw you some curveballs that you just don't expect. You literally just don't expect. And so, again, we're going to be talking about this thing called life. And I want to start off just first of all, starting off talking to you all about where I've been. So I know the last episode I did was like February 14th. Again, it's been quite some time, so I apologize. And I had come back off not recording for about a week, and I was like, all right, good. I think I feel okay. Let me get into the groove of things. Let me get going. And all of a sudden, it was just like my motivation. I'm having a transparent moment. My motivation and me wanting to provide something of value, right, just wasn't there. I was struggling with being and feeling motivated. I was struggling with wanting to do much of anything. And I had planned on talking about mental health and the importance of mental health. And I'm still going to talk about that because it's a passion of mine, and it's a passion that's evolving. But as you all know, as I've shared before, maybe you don't know, I'm in grad school. And I'm in grad school working towards a degree in counseling psychology. And, when I had took some time off and then came back, I felt like I was in a really good spot to jump back into sharing and motivating people. But if I'm being honest, I was getting to the point to where I was starting to digress, even in my own motivation. And I remember telling my wife, like, I don't know what's going on. I just know I feel a little off. I feel off. I'm feeling a little anxious. I'm feeling a little worried. Um, School is starting to intensify. Um, it's a lot happening at once. Currently going through a renovation right now. Um, Money is leaving my bank account, so my level of security in in what I had been saving for, right? I had been preparing for this renovation because my wife and I had purchased a new home 2 years ago and converting it back to a duplex and working towards generational wealth and opening up an Airbnb, right? The money was there for it. But I really I don't know if I was fully prepared for such a big undertaking, although I have the best contractors and such a phenomenal duo. Shout outs to Danielle and Shannon Blakely, who have been absolutely phenomenal in really supporting my wife and I's vision. And they are so near completion of what we are hoping and praying and believing will be an Airbnb, and which will generate myself and my family an opportunity to have a little bit more financial freedom, and it'll really it'll really give us an opportunity to really begin to focus on that generational wealth for our sons. So shout out to them. But again, there's been so much that's been happening, but the biggest thing has been school. And I finished my bachelor's degree about 2 years ago, um, and it took me 2 years longer than what it actually should have because I procrastinated and literally just doing one assignment and writing a paper. Um, but I procrastinated just simply because and I'll share this. I take my role my role as the head of my house very seriously. And as you all have heard on other podcasts, other episodes, I talked to you all about my time as a stay-at-home dad and what that time meant for the time being, and how when I made that transition to go back in the workforce, the work that it took to get to that point. And so in transitioning right back into the workforce, I talk a little bit about some of the things that I overcame to actually get to where I am. But more importantly, like I was saying, I take my role as the head of my house very serious. I remember when I was getting back into the workforce and we were getting back to a place to where I would say we weren't in a place of stability, but we were in a place of setting goals on what it is that we actually wanted our lives to look like, right? Because here we had this young family, right? We have a newborn son. At this point, by the time I went back, he was getting ready to turn 1. And I remember my wife mentioning to me, like, Matthew, I need stability. I need security. Like, this is what I need, right? I'm not telling you that this is what I want, but this is really what I need. And I took those words to heart for a number of different reasons. But one of the main reasons I took that to heart is because I knew what it was like to struggle. And a lot of people take that lightly, but for me, right, I took that to heart simply because I grew up in a single parent household with a mother who worked multiple jobs to provide for not just one boy, but for 2 boys, right? Um, who whose father was absent. Let's call a spade, right? I'm not sitting here trying to protect nobody's feelings. Love, respect, honor, but again, a mother who worked endlessly, right, to ensure not so much that we had what we want, but that we had what we need. And at times, right, was very prideful. I love you, mama, and asking for assistance, right, when needed. Praise God for wonderful grandparents who could see right through her, who made sure that even in those moments of pride, that they stepped in and they did what they needed to do to make sure that we didn't go without. Right. So when they say it takes a village, it really does take a village, whether it's from a monetary standpoint, whether it's from mental, whether it's spiritual, regardless of the fact, right? It literally does take a village. So shout out to my village as well. But I knew what it was like to struggle, and I did not and refused in that moment to not allow my wife to feel as if I was creating a stable environment for her. I didn't want to create that narrative for her. And so I worked my butt off. I worked my butt off to go from back into the workforce, into something that I had no familiarity in whatsoever. Told myself I'll make it last for a few months and I'm gonna find something else to do. But when I began to realize the opportunities, right, that was going to come with it, the shaping, the molding, the preparation that I was preparing for, and taking this leap when I had absolutely no knowledge in what I was doing. I was committed to the process because I wanted to ensure that I could change the narrative for my family. I wanted to make sure more than anything that I could break the generational curses that had gone before me. And I realized in that moment that the struggles that I endured as a child, I refused to project upon my children. And so I decided in that moment that this is what I needed to do. As the head of the household, Matthew, you got to be willing to make some sacrifices. I had finished my associate's degree. You need to go after your bachelor's degree. You need to get that degree done. Not as if it gave me more money. It was my ability to be able to show up and do what I needed to do in my place of employment, which is what helped me be able to actually increase my yearly salary, my yearly revenue. And even though I'm not where I should be and or even want to be, it's given me an opportunity to be able to gain some experience in order to be able to do some things outside of what it is that I actually do in my everyday position. But again, I'm starting to deflect. Um, I take my role as the head of the household very serious. And so when I talk about where it is that I've been, school has been trying. Um, and I put this post up on my personal Facebook earlier, um, really just highlighting the struggle that it is, working on a graduate degree, being a husband, a father, working full time, you know, going through a construction, right? And just seeing my renovation slash savings, right, slowly but surely deplete, knowing that on the other side of that, that I'm going to be able to recoup all of it because I believe that God placed us here for a reason, right? And the beauty of it all is that the home that my mother lived in for a summer, right? It was a women's shelter. The home that she lived in for a summer while she was getting back on her feet. Um, Here we are 15 years or so later, right? I was able to buy that homeless shelter, right? And my family and I live here, and we're building equity in it, and we're renovating, and it's just such a blessing, right, to know that 15 or so years later that I've been able to purchase the place that helped my mother get back to where she needed to get to in order to create at least a little bit of normalcy and stability for even for us, me and my brother, at that time in our life. But what I was sharing in that post is that um, I have no idea how people do this, but the one thing that I'll say is that having a good, solid support system makes the world of difference. My wife has gone through this program before. It's definitely changed in the 10 years since she's graduated, but she's gone through it before. And so she knows some of the nuances or some of the headaches or some of the struggles or some of the trials that I may be going through. And as much as I would love for her to do a paper for me, ethically, I definitely know she won't. She is just that girl. She definitely won't. She's not. She is big on ethics. she she definitely will. She will help me navigate through some things, but she's definitely not doing no work for me because she would definitely say, "Look, I did the work. You need to go ahead, play your part, and do what you need to do." But anywho, I digress. Um, but it's been difficult. It's been challenging, and it's been really hard to motivate myself, even in the midst of this. And I'm so happy that I have this platform. Although I haven't been here, I haven't been present because again, it's been stressful to be able to share with you this place of vulnerability, knowing that this podcast focuses on motivation. But this is another form of motivation, not just for you, but even for me to be able to share it, to help you understand that this thing called life may, in fact, throw some curveballs at you. But I'm wanting to remind you more than anything that he's equipped you for this. He really has. He has equipped you for this process. And it is difficult. It is definitely not going to come easy, but I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for God's goodness and his mercy and his consistency and his ability to help me see through another lens. Um, Over the last few days to kind of really help myself get back to a place of motivation, get back to a place to where I feel like I can really do this, right? Because the purpose of me going back to school to get a master's degree, because I'm going to be honest, I make fairly decent money, right? And so me going back to school to get a master's degree is optional first and foremost. But it's my purpose and my heart and my intent is because I want to be able to help people who can easily identify with me. It is so important for me as a Black man in America to be a person of representation, to be a catalyst, to be a trendsetter, and not for the same reasons, right? That people who have the ability, right, to become this famous people. No, I want to be able to help, inspire, and motivate everyday people, right? Black men who need support, who need assistance, who need guidance, who need a safe space. So, my role and my purpose in life is to be able to create a safe place for men in general, but especially for African American men, to be able to share their vulnerabilities, to be able to navigate this thing called life. And I say that with such intent. If I had a camera in front of me, you all would be like, oh my gosh, she's so passionate. And I say that with such intent because I believe that more often than not, especially with what is happening in the world, that we feel unseen, unheard, neglected, depleted, tired, stressed, full of anxiety, although we won't call it what it actually is, right? And because of our cultural background, because of our cultural history, we've been equipped to just keep going, right? And not addressing what it is that we're feeling. Today, when I was in my therapy session, because even as a person who's going into therapy, right, to help people, I have a therapist. I need one, right? And thank God I have one, especially right now, with everything that's happening in my life, positively, right, but stressful. He was able to help me kind of work um, through some things, and he really helped shed a light on making sure that I can focus on beginning to accept my reality and helping me understand that my current reality is temporary. You went into grad school with this purpose, this is your intent, but it's temporary. I want to remind you that whatever you're facing that's difficult, that's hard, that's stressful, that is attempting and or even working to keep you up at night, it is temporary. The thing that's really helped me over the last week or so is waking up early in the morning and really being intentional with having the necessary time that I need with God. It has helped me with really making sure that I can clear my mind, that I can clear my thoughts, that I can really be at a place of, I don't even want to necessarily say tranquility, but be at a place of peace. That's really what it is. And really kind of preparing me for what's ahead. Me waking up in the morning and having time with God is setting the tone, and it's helping everything understand that before you attempt, right, to cause havoc or wreak havoc in my day, let me help you understand that I've been able to lay the foundation. I've been able to set the tone for what it is that I want my day to look like and how it is that God is actually going to help me along the way. It has been so intricate in how my mornings have been able to operate over the last few days. So much so where I'm up early in the morning and then I'm in bed late at night, right? Because even now, right, I say it says morning motivation, but if I'm being honest, it's almost 9 o'clock at night that I'm actually recording this because I had these thoughts on my mind and I wanted to get them out. I wanted to share these moments with you all. I wanted to share my heart with you all. I wanted to be at a place where I can be transparent to help you understand that at times life can be difficult, it can be stressful, it can be worrisome, it can be heavy. Um, but through it all, you can come out on the other side as pure as gold. And I want to remind you to find people who are willing to be inconvenienced for you. I remember having this conversation with my wife and how we were talking about love is inconvenience. Love is inconvenience when you have people who desire to walk side by side with you without question, without stress, without um, worrying you or bothering you. When you have people who are willing to walk with you side by side and hold you when you need to be held and listen to you when you need to vent, right? Not to give you a solution to the problem, but to really be able to aid and support and guide you through what it is that you're going through. It makes a world of difference. I haven't said much out loud with the exception of to my wife and just recently to my therapist, but my wife has been, as she always has been in the almost 13 years that we've been married, has been such a sounding board over the last few days because she knows what it is that I'm going through. She doesn't know the full extent, right? Because when she went and got her graduate degree, we didn't have children, it was just she and I. And she doesn't know the full extent because as a man, I take pride in providing for my family. So our stressors aren't the same, our worries aren't the same. But I know that she's there with me. I know that she is listening. I know that she is not judging. I know that she is encouraging and she's being a soundboard. And I just want to again remind you that this thing called life again, at times is meant to throw curveballs, but it won't always be like this. It won't always be like this. Um, on the other side of this, you will come out. You will come out better than you were when you went in. And I just wanted to be able to share some hope with you all and really just be able to share my heart. I did not prepare um, for this episode, but more importantly, I wanted to share my heart. I wanted to share where I've been. Um, I wanted to be able to kind of give you all um, some insight into what it is that's really been helping me remain motivated and how it's been difficult. But I do know that when I come out on the other side, when I come out on the other side, that every tear, every worry, every level of stress, every level of frustration, every moment of cuss word that wanted to come up, come on, I'm human, um, that it is going to be so beautiful and it's going to be so purposeful. And I'm literally going to be walking in the promises of God and what He has for me and what He has for me to be able to provide to other people. Um, this is just the beginning portion of it, but on the other side, it's going to be 10 times greater. And so, thank you all so much for being patient with me. Please forgive me. I am going to do better, but I thank you so much for the level of grace that you've provided for me over this last month or so. But I love you all so much. Thank you so much for tuning in to Morning Motivation with Matthew, and I'll see you on the other side. Bye.